What's up, everybody? This is All Things Beer 510, and I am with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Garrett Oliver from Brooklyn Brewery. Say what's up to the people watching.
How you doing, people?
First off and foremost, she's not in the frame, but thank you, Debbie, so much for hooking us up. I'm a big fan. I started getting into craft beer in 2012, and I went to a Brooklyn Nets game in 2013, had a Brooklyn Brewery beer, and I looked like, who makes this beer? And it was you, and I'm just honored. Sorry for the geekism, guys. You know, it's just pouring out of me. Everybody, when I told them, I'm interviewing Garrett Oliver, they were shooting me interview questions. And I never thought I had this chance, but man, just thank you for taking this interview. Welcome to the Bay.
Good to be here.
And we could just start off. Can you tell us just, about Brooklyn Brewery, coming to California specifically? Tonight is the gala. You are here. Just about the distribution and it took a long time.
Took a long time,
but
31 years.
We're happy to have you here. And then just talk about just Brooklyn Brewery in the Bay.
Well, this is the way I'm going to put it. For many years, people were saying, how is it that we go to Sweden and we get your beer, and we go to France and we get your beer, and we go to England and we get your beer, we go to Finland and we get your beer, and we come to LA, San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego, and we can't. And I'll put it this way. I think it took us 31 years and working our way all the way through the great brewing capitals of Europe to get good enough to come to California.
You know what?
We needed some practice first, because y'all have a lot of really serious breweries here.
I appreciate that, because one thing too, that was going to lead into my next question. What is special about the Bay Area? What is special about California that you guys had to come here and with all the great breweries, from the classics to your Lagunitas to your Firestones to your new ones like your Monkishes or Cellar Makers. Like, we have so much history here. And New York has a lot of history, so it's perfect sense. New York, California.
Yeah.
But just can you talk about just your love for California beer, and you guys are out here now.
It's a funny. Well, first of all, it is not 6 degrees here, and this is very important to me personally. But all joking aside, look, in the United States, the craft brewing movement comes originally out of California. And we all know that. And so anybody who's brewing IPA, Pale Ale, etc., if they say they are not in some way referring to Sierra Nevada, they're not referring in some way to Russian River, they're either lying or they don't know what they're talking about. Because that is kind of the foundation of where our thing is coming from. I kind of did it the other way around. I moved to England in 1983, and I thought that I had been drinking beer in college. I drank a lot of something that was called beer, and I ate a lot of stuff that was called bread, and I ate stuff that was called cheese. And then I moved to Europe and found out that the whole thing was a lie. I remember seeing my first cheese shop in Paris, and I go in there and they said there's 400 cheeses in there. And I'm like, what's that smell? It is the fromage, monsieur. And I said, well, I've had all 4 cheeses and none of them smell like that. Like, what's going on here? And so it was like growing up in the Matrix. Everything about it. And the beer was the same thing. We had a fake version of beer that we had been sold as beer. I fell in love with it there. But already 3 years earlier, Ken Grossman had already started Sierra Nevada, out here. And it took a long time for that to get to the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started actually working at a brew pub in New York City called Manhattan Brewing Company in 1989. Run by a guy who had run Samuel Smith's in England.
Okay.
And then we started to get the California influence, started to finally make it into New York in the early 90s, especially Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
And so in a certain way, I think we're coming back to the ancestral home of craft brewing in the United States, and that is California. I think, though, that you could say, okay, you're bringing sand to the beach, but I don't think that our beers actually taste like California beers.
No.
So our beers are really distinctly different. We are halfway between the West Coast of the United States and the great brewing capitals. And at one time, Brooklyn was a great brewing capital in its own right. In the late 1800s, Brooklyn had 48 breweries, and they made 15% of all the beer in the United States.
Wow.
We had Weiss beer breweries, we had IPA breweries, Pale Ale breweries, Stout and Porter breweries, we had sour beer breweries, we had a lot of lager breweries. And so that, we had our own foundation, out that way. So when you look at our beers, you see a blend of Americanism, a lot of which is coming really to us from the West Coast. And then you have a big influence of Europe, which is twice as close to us as it is to you guys here. And so, I think that in that way we bring something a little bit unique.
And you guys do. I mean, I know this is your first time having like distribution to California, but I know you've been out here before. I know, Brooklyn Brewery, Funkworks, and also 21st Amendment. That you've been to a few events out here.
Yes.
To California. So this is not, of course, well-traveled man. This is not his first.
I get around.
Yeah. So, and also, I know we're cut for time. This is the gala. Everybody wants to see Garrett, but I, want to ask you while I got you here about just diversity in craft beer. One of the reasons I was so excited today, February 1st, is first day of Black History Month, and I'm interviewing Garrett Oliver.
Yep. You know what I'm going to tell you right now. Every day, every month is Black History Month.
Every month is Black History. But just today, at my job, I work for the city and county of San Francisco. We celebrated it today. And I was telling everybody I'm interviewing him. He writes books. He travels the world. He's a brewer. People were so excited. Can you? And I'm interviewing you. Fresh Fest. That's in Pittsburgh. Which is
I'm going to be.
You're going to be there. Can you just talk about from when you started brewing to now, how you've seen the diversity grow, not just with people of color, but also women as well. There's a lot of women at this event that are not only drinking beer, but serving beer, making great beer. Can you just talk about overall diversity from the beginning when you started to now, and how?
Well, I'll tell you, when I first started at a brew pub, Manhattan Brewing Company. When I went on the floor of the brew pub, I wore a tie and I wore a white coat, like a white lab coat, so that I would not be mistaken for anybody else, because otherwise people would come looking for Garrett Oliver, walk right past me, and talk to my assistant, who was of European background and was more the kind of person they expected to see. These days, that doesn't really happen because people generally know what I look like, before they show up to meet me. But there are changes. But I mean, look, one thing that people don't realize, they think of brewing somehow as being a European thing. First of all, every African society, every traditional African society is based around brewing. There was always a communal brewing thing. I've done it in South Africa. I'm going to be in South Africa later this year, at the Craft Brewers Powwow event there. There are a lot of great brewers, coming out of Africa, so that's a big part of African tradition. Not only that, if you take in the United States, etc., who do you actually think was doing all the brewing? Yeah. Like, do you ever think about that?
I never even thought about that.
You can read Thomas Jefferson's letters to James Madison, both who were brewers, but who was actually doing the brewing.
Yeah.
We were doing the brewing.
Wow.
I'm working now with the Museum of Food and Drink. Our next big, exhibit is on the African American contribution to cuisine of the United States. Particularly, and I'm not talking about just soul food, and I love it, but people think that haute cuisine, like some French guy came here. It's like, there's no French guy. It was us. We went to France. We brought back all this knowledge, and we propagated this knowledge. And you go look up James Hemings. You probably already know who he is, who he was, and that is where all of the haute cuisine in the United States comes from. Wow. Almost entirely in the African American community, and there wasn't that much input from anybody else for a long, long time. So my point is, this always belonged to us as much as it belonged to anybody, and I think it's only now that we're starting to embrace it. I think it's it's part of becoming full Americans, whether it's women, whether they're African American, whether they're Asian. At Brooklyn Brewery, we have a full-on United Nations crew. I mean, people from all over the world. I got guys working for me that used to be child soldiers in Eritrea, people who had to flee Iraq, people who fled Afghanistan, etc. Who we put through brewing school, etc., and have become brewers. And so it's a motley crew, and that's New York, man. That's what makes it happen.
And New York is great, and just like California too, is a lot of diversity, especially in San Francisco, the Bay Area. Can you, and maybe you can't answer this, but Brooklyn Brewery is doing distribution in California. Is there any way, maybe in the future, that Brooklyn Brewery opens up anything in California?
I mean, it's always a possibility. For the time being, we are now partnered with 21st Amendment here in San Leandro. So we are actually going to start brewing some of our beer. We'll send some from the East Coast, and then we'll brew some here.
Okay, wow.
Because they're now our people, and our people are like their people. And so we have, when it comes to going to the to market, so to speak, that whole thing is now blended for us. So our salespeople are their salespeople, and vice versa. So
it's a partnership. So it's a real partnership.
It's a real partnership.
Oh, okay.
So they're selling our beer and we're selling their beer.
Wow.
And it's like a party.
And can you talk about that 21st Amendment? Do you go back a long time with them? I know they've been in the game. They're one of the founders in California as well, and sometimes I feel they don't get their just due. But can you talk about that, just the partnership between 21st Amendment and Funkworks, how that came to be?
Well, we're all OGs. We've been in it for a long time. I've known Sean and Nico for the better part of 20 years. So we were already pals, et cetera. I think a lot of this really had to do, the breweries are staying separate. They got their brewery. I'm not like talking to them about like, hey, this is what you want to do with your recipe. It's like, no, like they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. But when it comes to actually getting your beer out there, rolling with a crew is a lot different than rolling alone, especially in a crowded marketplace. So we're like, if our salesperson shows up and has Funkworks, 21st Amendment, and Brooklyn, that's just a more powerful thing to work with. So it really comes from the distribution side rather than from the beer side. We all have our own beers.
Wow. And also too, talking about beer, because I know somebody would kill me if I didn't answer this. Can you talk about? I always ask every brewer this, and I did an interview with Fieldwork in Berkeley a couple of days ago, and I asked, how do you balance with all these trends, pastry style, hazy IPA, all these crazy, stuff in beer, and then just keeping it balanced from what the consumer or the beer geek or whatever wants, or the internet, and then what you like to brew, how do you balance that, not only as a brewer but also as a businessman?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I am 400 years old. I have always been here. So I've watched the hem go up and down, and the tie gets wider and skinnier, and I stay on my path.
Good.
And we stay on our path. So I'm not saying that we're like completely blind to what's going out there, but just because everybody wants to do pastry stout doesn't mean that like I'm going to do pastry stout. There are trends and fads that blow through brewing as much as anything. You remember black IPA?
Yeah.
It's like go find one now. It was all the rage for a while. Things come and go. We make the beers that we want to drink. And we then hope that you want to drink them. We see that you do want to drink them, and then we're happy. That's kind of the way that works. And frankly, if it turns out that we like it and you don't, and nobody does, and they're unhappy, it's like, well, that beer, eventually might go away. There are beers that I love that we don't have anymore, but we replace them with other ones that I love just as much as I love those ones. And so, you take the market, of course, into account, but basically, we're just brewing what we feel like drinking.
And when you talk about feel like drinking, what do you like to drink? I know, I can't drink. Well, I probably will tonight, but I can't drink. Blackout.
No.
So what do you people?
You'll die.
Yeah, a lot of
0.2%. It doesn't last.
A lot of people who are new into beer are always chasing these big beers, or the crazy high percentage beers. But when I talk to a lot of brewers, they like the opposite. Like, what do you go to as far as style wise?
I'll tell you what. Like right now, if I'm not drinking my beer, and I'm not drinking our Brethren's beer, 21A and Funkworks, I'm gonna go right down to Russian River, and everybody's on a line now. We're playing the younger, and it's great. I'm gonna be drinking STS Pils.
Great Pilsner.
Yeah, great Pilsner, and Pilsner is a great style. From them also today, I had a pint of a pale ale called Road 2.
Okay.
Hill 2 Road 56.
Yeah.
Awesome. most of my favorite beers are 5.5% and under.
Okay.
Now, we make a lot of beers that are a lot bigger than that, and we have some with us. But I think that we just want to show, I mean, yeah, we have different moods like everybody does. You know, some days are hip hop, some days are classical, some days are punk rock. It's the same thing with beer. You know, it's just a matter of different moods. Of our beers that are here tonight, probably if I had to drink one all night, I might be drinking Bel Air, which is our, which is our sour.
Okay.
But on an everyday basis, Brooklyn Lager is like the middle of our universe.
And that was the beer I had at the Brooklyn Expo, Brooklyn Lager.
Yeah,
I was like, this is not, you know, my aunt worked at Budweiser for 25 years.
Wow, okay.
And I did not like the beer because that's what she would bring home.
Right.
And so when I had Brooklyn Lager, I'm like, wait, this is not Budweiser. And that's what kind of turned me into like liking craft beer.
Well, you know what's funny? Do the Right Thing came out in 1988.
Okay.
You know, right after Brooklyn Lager got launched. There's a shot, you know, when Mookie goes into Korean Deli, there's a shot like that lasts for 30 seconds on the Brooklyn Lager 6-pack in the cooler in the deli.
I have to check that.
And you could tell like Spike was like holding that shot for a long time because he was like, something's coming from Brooklyn. And you know, we were among the people, you know, certainly not the only ones, who made Brooklyn into a place that people want to talk about and respected because, you know, it was Crooklyn back in the day. People would ask you, you're from Brooklyn, how many times you've been mugged? Have you ever been shot? You know, this and that and the other thing, and it's changed a lot.
It's changed
a lot.
And, you know, I went there a couple years ago to some breweries out there, and, you know, from what I heard from stories from my family, and then just what I go see now, it is, you know, night and day, just like Oakland and San Francisco and a lot of, you know, urban cities in America. Can you talk about one big thing you're also known for is food? And the Bay Area is, you know, known for great food. San Francisco, Oakland has a great food scene. Can you talk about just, you know, are there any restaurants out here that you go to when you come out here to the Bay Area? You know, I have to have this, I have to have that. Where do you go eat? People are probably going to be writing down like, oh, I have to try this. Like, where are your go-to spots in the Bay Area?
I'm going to plead ignorance to a certain extent. I mean, I've been out here, you know, I've been out here 5 to 10 times. But I want to be led by people who are actually living here. And now, what am I the most interested in? I'm going to be the most interested in Asian food and in Mexican food. You know, because I feel like in San Francisco, you guys have a better concentration of people more directly from those parts of the world, you know, than we do. Not that we don't have great Mexican and you know and Asian restaurants, but if people in San Francisco say like this is a great Thai restaurant, you know, like Slanted Door or wherever else, this is a great Korean restaurant. This is a great, you know, Oaxacan restaurant. I'm going to pay attention to that more than this is a great Italian restaurant. You know, I've spent years in Italy, you know, so it's like I know that food, love it, but, you know, I want to see what San Francisco can bring. And you do have better vegetables. I'll tell you that right now. You know, like I haven't seen one bad avocado here. I hate you people. Like, you know, to see our avocados, they have spots in them, brown spots.
Nah, they're
terrible,
fresh,
and they're expensive.
They're expensive here too. Whenever you know, our vegetables are bar none. I started eating vegetables when I met my wife. Before I ate canned vegetables because had to, but now it's like
No, my mom followed the same instructions as your mom. Cook for 30 minutes until gray. I mean, I had to learn about vegetables.
Before I let you go, can you talk about? I don't even know if you are a fan, but you're from Hollis, Queens. You wear the hat. I know it's not. I might be wrong. I know Ryan always wore a hat. You kind of remind me. I don't know if that's influenced at all. But can you talk about lately in brewing? A lot of breweries are using hip hop to market craft beer, whether it's the names or whether the group Nappy Roots. They have been doing like a tour for beer. Can you just talk about something hip hop and craft beer, and also helps with diversity? Just the merging the two and what you've seen with that. Being from Brooklyn too. I mean, Brooklyn is Biggie, Jay-Z. Just hip hop central.
I think it's all it's all freestyle. It's all freestyle. It's all creativity. I mean, for me, my hats maybe go even back through hip hop, to jazz or whatever else. All my hats are ones that I designed and have made. There's only one of these, and there's only one of any of my other hats.
That's
so It's like what what Jay says. Like that means 1 to 1.
Yeah,
none before it, none to come.
None to come. Okay. Garrett Oliver with the rhymes.
So this had to be a 1 to 1.
Yeah.
But that's the way I think of it. It's like pure creativity, without boundary, and that's what you see out here on the floor at the gala.
Okay. And so the last question, and like I said, I just really thank you and appreciate you just blessing me with the opportunity to sit down with you and talk to you. I learned a lot today in this little bit of time. Can you just talk about what's to come? Are there any more events after Beer Week? Are you going to come in, since you're brewing here? When you say brewing here, I know you have a team of brewers, but are you going to be also coming here more periodically throughout the Bay Area?
I'll be out here not only to oversee some of our brewing that we might do out here, to do collaborations and basically get to know the area better, because we don't sell any beer to strangers.
Yeah.
We don't put beer on a boat or on a truck or whatever else and say buy and collect the check. That's never the way that we did things. We always tell people, it's like, look, everywhere that I go, you go to Sweden, you go to Stockholm, I go into an antique store, people are like, how's the brewery?
Yeah.
Everybody knows me.
Yeah.
And so that's the way we want to roll here.
Okay.
Y'all gonna get sick of us.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
You go to your local bar, I'll be sitting there at the bar.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I've watched a whole bunch. I've watched a whole bunch of videos. I could listen to you talk for like hours. Like I watched like a Google thing you did in NYC. I've watched all your things with Munchies. And a lot of people that I know just speak so high of you, man. And Brooklyn Brewery is one of the breweries, I believe, like in the Mount Rushmore of beer. I think you're one of those guys in the Mount Rushmore of beer. That's not just bullshit. That's being serious.
Well, much appreciated.
Yeah, and just thank you, man. And enjoy the gala. With 4 hours of nice drinking, and there's a lot of great beer here, as you know. And you guys, until next time, you guys know what I say. Peace and love. 100.
100.